with a Methodist hymn in his musical throat, the sun was emitting his ultimate note, his quivering larynx enwrinkled the sea like an ichthyosaurian blowing his tea, when sweetly and pensively rattled and rang this plaint which an hippopotamus sang: "Oh, chamomile, calabash, cartilage pie, spread for my spirit a peppermint fry, crown me with doughnuts, and drape me with cheese, settle my soul with a cod liver sneeze low, how I stand on my head and repine, lollipop lumpkin can never be mine." Down sank the sun with a kick and a plunge, up from the wave rose the head of a sponge, ropes in his ringlets, eggs in his eyes, tip-tilted nose in a way to surprise. These the conundrums he flung to the breeze, the answers that echo returned to him these: "Cobblestone, cobblestone, why do you sigh, why do you turn on the tears? My mother is crazy on strawberry jam, and my father has petrified ears. Liverwort, liverwort, why do you droop, why do you snuffle and scowl? My brother has cockleburrs into his eyes, and my sister has married an owl. Simia, simia, why do you laugh, why do you cackle and quake? My son has a pollywog stuck in his throat, and my daughter has bitten a snake." Slow sank the head of the sponge out of sight, soaken with sea water. Then it was night. The moon had now risen for dinner to dress, when sweetly the pachyderm sang from his nest. He sang through a pestle of silvery shape, encrusted with custard empurpled with crape, and this was the burden he bore on his lips, and blew to the listening sturgeon that sips from the fountain of opium under the lobes of the mountain, whose summit in buffalo robes the winter envelops, as Venus adorns an elephant trunk with a chaplet of thorns, chasing mastodons through marshes upon stilts of light rattan, hunting spiders with a shotgun and mosquitoes with an axe, plucking peanuts ready roasted from the branches of the oak, waking echoes in the forest with our hymns of blessed Bosh. We roamed, my love and I, by the margin of the fountain spouting thick with clabbered milk, under spreading boughs of basswood all alive with cooing toads, loafing listlessly on boulders of octagonal design, standing gracefully inverted with our toes together knit. We loved, my love and I. Hippopotamus comforts his heart biting half-moons out of strawberry tart. Epitaph on George Francis Train. Inscribed on a pork barrel. Beneath this casket rots unknown a thing that merits not a stone, save that by passing urchin cast, whose fame on virtues we express by transient urn of emptiness, with apt inscription, to its past relating and to his prime mess. No honor had this infidel, that doth not appertain, as well, to altered caitiff on the drop, no wit that would not likewise pass for wisdom in the famished ass who breaks his neck a weed to crop, when tethered in the luscious grass. And now, thank God, his hateful name shall never rescued be from shame, though seas of venal ink be shed, no sophistry shall reconcile with sympathy for Erin's isle, or sorrow for her patria dead, the weeping of this crocodile. Life's incongruity is past, and dirt to dirt is seen at last. The worm of wormafowl doth fall, the sexton tolls his solemn bell for scoundrel dead and gone to well. It matters not, it can't recall this convict from his final cell. Jerusalem, old and new. Didymus Dunkleton Doty Don John is a parson of high degree. He holds forth of Sundays to marveling crowds who wonder how vice can still be when smitten so stoutly by Didymus. Don disciple of Calvine is he, but sinners still laugh at his talk of the New Jerusalem. Ha ha, tee and biting their thumbs at the doughty Don John. This parson of high degree, they think of the streets of a village they know, where horses still sink to the knee, contrasting its muck with the pavement of gold that's laid in the other side. They think of the sign that still swings, uneffaced by winds from the salt sea, which tells where he trafficked in tipple, of your Don Dunkleton Johnny, D. Didymus Dunkleton Doty Don John still plays on his fiddle. His lambkins still bleat in full psalmody sweet, and the devil still pitches the key. Communing with nature one evening I sat on a heavenward hill, the winds were asleep and all nature was still, wee children came round me to play at my knee. As my mind floated rudderless over the sea, I put out one hand to caress them, but held with the other my nose, for these cherubim smelled. I cast a few glances upon the old sun. He was red in the face from the race he had run, but he seemed to be doing, for aught I could see, quite well without any assistance from me. And so I directed my wandering eye around to the opposite side of the sky, and the rapture that ever with ecstasy thrills through the heart as the moon rises bright from the hills, would in this case have been most exceedingly rare, except for the fact that the moon was not there but the stars looked right lovingly down in the sea, and, by Jupiter, Venus was winking at me. The gas in the city was flaring up bright, Montgomery Street was resplendent with light, but I did not exactly appear to advance a sentiment proper to that circumstance. So it only remains to explain to the town that a rainstorm came up before I could calm down, as the boots I had on were uncommonly thin. My fancy leaked out as the water leaked in, though dampened my ardor, though slackened my strain. I'll strike the wild lyre who sings the sweet train, conservatism and progress. Old Zephyr, dawdling in the west, looked down upon the sea, which slept unfretted at his feet, and balanced on its breast a fleet that seemed almost to be suspended in the middle air, as if a magnet held it there, eternally at rest. Then, one by one, the ships released their folded sails, and drove against the empty calm to press north, south, or west, or east. In vain, the subtle nothingness was impotent to move. Zephyr laughed aloud to see no vessel moves except by me, and, hey ho! I shall sleep. But lo! From out the troubled north a tempest strode impatient forth, and trampled white the deep. The sloping ships flew glad away, laving their heated sides in spray. The west then turned him red with wrath, and to the north he shouted, hold there! How dare you cross my path, as now you are about it? The north replied with labored breath, his speed no moment slowing, my friend, you'll never have a path, unless you take to blowing. Inter arma silent ledges. An election incident. About the polls the freedmen drew, to vote the freemen down, and merrily their caps up flew as Grant rode through the town. From votes to staves they next did turn, and beat the freemen down. Full bravely did their valor burn as Grant rode through the town. Then staves for muskets they forsook, and shot the freemen down. Right royally their banners shook as Grant rode through the town. Hail, final triumph of our cause, hail, chief of mute renown, grim magistrate of silent laws, a riding freedom down. Quintessence. To produce these spicy paragraphs, which have been unsuccessfully imitated by every newspaper in the state, requires the combined efforts of 5 able-bodied persons associated on the editorial staff of this journal. New York Herald. Sir Muscle speaks, and nations bend the ear. Hark ye, these notes are wit quintuple here. 5 able-bodied editors combine their strength prodigious in each labored line. O wondrous vintner! Hopeless seemed the task to bung these drainings in a single cask. The riddles read, 5 leathern skins contain the working juice, and scarcely feel the strain. Saviors of Rome. Will wonders never cease? A ballad cackled by 5 tuneful geese upon one Rosinante. 5 stout knights ride fiercely into visionary fights. A cap and bells 5 sturdy fools adorn. 5 porkers battle for a grain of corn. 5 donkeys squeeze into a narrow stall. 5 tumblebugs propel a single ball. Resurgam dawns dread and red, the fateful morn low. Resurrection's day is born. The striding sea no longer strides, no longer knows the trick of tides. The land is breathless, winds relent, all nature waits the dread event. From wassail rising rather late, a warding Jove arrives in state, or yawning graves looks many a league, then yawns himself from sheer fatigue, lifting its finger to the sky. A marble shaft arrests his eye. This epitaph, in pompous pride, engraven on its polished side, perfection of creation's plan, here resteth universal man, who virtues, segregated wide, collated, classed, and codified, reduced to practice, taught, explained, and strict morality maintained, anticipating death, his belfie lavished on this monolith, because he leaves nor kin nor kith, he rears this tribute to himself, that virtue's fame may never cease. Hic jacet, let him rest in peace. With sober eye Jove scanned the shaft, then turned away and lightly laughed. Poor man! Since I have careless been in keeping books to note thy sin, and thou hast left upon the earth this faithful record of thy worth, thy final prayer shall now be heard. Of life I'll not renew thy lease, but take thee at thy carven word, and let thee rest in solemn peace.